Hello, and today I'm going to be doing a quick tutorial on a very easy binding technique I figured out. This is going to be using household objects you could find every day in a house, as well as that it's very actually quick. I really do emphasize it's quick. It took me around 20 minutes. It takes around 20 to 30 minutes usually to do it. But this is intended for usually textbook and not textbooks, but it's intended for smaller booklets, packets. If you would like textbooks, you should check out my earlier videos on textbook binding, but this is just for small amounts of paper. So what you'll need are a ruler, a straight edge cutter, and this special hole puncher that I will actually be leaving the link in the description to buy it on Amazon. It's actually really useful. Then you need a pair of scissors, tape measure, and you may need tape, but I don't really recommend it because it just looks neater without it. Then you'll also need some sewing needles, sewing yarn, a Sharpie for marking your folder, folder. You can choose a clear one. I got a clear one from Daiso for a pack of 12, which was affordable. But you can also use ones with characters on it or different colors and prints or patterns. These are usually the Japanese variations where it's like a little pocket rather than like something that you can just open up like a book. It's kind of like got a perforated bottom. You can also use a giant piece of plastic that's like more sturdy than regular plastic. That can also be used, but make sure it can fold in half. You're also going to need a little clip, as you can see, just to hold everything together while you're binding it with the sewing yarn. Alright, let's get started. So first, like I said before, we're going to get started with just a regular paper. You don't want a lot of papers for this one because it's not going to hold and you're just going to need more space for this. But I printed around less than 30 pages here, but idealistically anything less than 50 pages works. So I printed it ahead of time. This is just regular printer paper, not cardstock paper or anything. Just standard and everything, 8 by 11 inches. Printed everything and including a front page, like a little title and everything, and then a back page with nothing on it, just to keep everything clean inside. So I'm going to be taking this special puncher I said. It punches 3, 4, or 5 punches and can be adjusted based on your paper size, but I just leave it as a default setting. And I'm following the punch line from the top and the bottom of the papers according to the little red markings on the puncher, just to keep everything consistent with measurements and have the holes aligned properly. I'm just doing the top and bottom for every page because it just saves more time and it actually helps the paper fold properly and flat. And honestly, it just much easier and takes less work to do. You could do the whole periphery of the page, but it's just much more practical to just do the top and bottom as I'm doing. And I'm doing it a few pages at a time because my puncher only does around 5 pages per round. That's just how it works. So I'm just going through slowly and making sure everything is neat. Next, I'm going to be taking the clear folder, as I said before, and I'm going to be measuring it with a ruler. So it's important to be able to recognize which side is the part that's stuck together, because that's the part we're going to be cutting off so that you can open this cover piece like a book at the end of it. But you're going to measure your paper that you printed everything on in the inside, just to make sure that it's going to line up properly, and you can take the measurement for the cover. You can make the cover a bit bigger, but it's just way easier to make it just the same size so you can punch the same size holes. So we're going to be using a straight edge to cut that end piece off, like I said. And after that, we're going to be taking a little punch, just the same punch we used before, and we're just gonna do the same thing, following those little red lines, punching just the top and the bottom. Next, you want to make sure that the cover page, that clear folder that we just transformed, aligns with your inner pages that you did first step. Just make sure that they align together. And once that's done, we can use a clip or chip clip, whatever you call it, just to keep it together while you're binding it. So we just have to make sure it's aligned. You can adjust it several times just to make sure it's perfect, but we just want everything to be connected. Then you're just gonna make sure it's sturdy. I really do recommend you do this on the edge of a table or somewhere where you can kind of lay that outer binding part out, so you can kind of do the bowing technique that I had in my other video. It makes it much faster, more practical. But we're just gonna take a needle. I recommend a thicker needle because we're gonna use thicker yarn. Thinner yarn wouldn't work because it may actually rip the little perforations and the little holes in your paper and cause there to be damage in the binding, so your book might not open correctly. So I really recommend a thicker yarn. Also, thicker yarn doesn't really slip out of the holes or cause any knots to break. So we're just going to take that needle, and like I said before, you can take measurements. Usually you take around 25 centimeters for 6 holes. So since we're doing top and bottom, you need 50 centimeters of yarn. This is an estimate. You may need less, you may need more. And I'm going to be showing the technique in another video that I took later on because my original footage was deleted from my phone due to lack of memory. So I kind of did a close up here what it looks like. We're going to take the yarn and put it in. You could use tape in this step as I mentioned before, but to make it look even neater, you could do this little technique I'm showing here. If you were using tape, you just tape the back page. It will show a little bit, but it's better than nothing if you cannot properly do this part. But it's not that hard. You could just take your hand while you're putting the yarn through the hole and just make sure it's not slipping into the hole again. Just being careful. We're going to go through that hole 3 to 4 times, depending on how many times you would like. Don't do it too much though, because then you won't be able to get through the hole. And once you do that, you're going to do 2 little nods inside that outer part of that same little hole. The second time around, going and creating a loop and then pulling the little needle through that loop and pulling tight just to make sure that it's in. And this creates like a sturdy little knot that would hold it together, kind of like a makeshift ring. And we're going to do this to every hole on the bottom here, and then cut the yarn or even use another yarn and just do the same exact technique from the start to the top. And once everything is done and complete, you can just check that your book is opening properly by removing the chip clip and laying it flat. and go ahead and enjoy your product. As you can see, it's very sturdy. And honestly, it was just really easy to make, and it's actually fun too to look at and gives you kind of pleasure while studying. So I hope you found this video helpful, and hope it gets put to use. Thanks a lot, guys. Thanks for watching, and good luck studying.